Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Naruto Next Generation discussion on the fallout from Boruto Chapter 80. And today I wanted to bring to your attention something that one of my patrons raised as a topic that I do very much believe has a possibility of panning out, which is that while Ada's Shinjutsu, as it currently is, cannot be undone by Ada herself willingly reversing the Shinjutsu simply by just blinking her eyes and saying that this needs to be reversed, my patron believes that they have the answer on how, by the end of the series, after Boruto has suffered and after Kawaki's redeemed himself, how the chakra inside of the people affected by the Shinjutsu can be indeed returned back to normal. Now, if you're hearing this and you're going, wait, that makes no sense, because Momoshiki said there's no way that the Shinjutsu can be reversed, I'm going to point out one thing before I get into what my patron said. They think is the key to making everything right. Yes, Momoshiki declared this as something that cannot ever go back to normal, but it's important to remember that the term unreliable narrator exists in literature for a reason. Just as when Amato pulled up into Konoha and started telling all this information on the Otsutsuki by first telling Naruto and company everything that they already knew about the Otsutsuki clan before giving them the real information that he was in possession of. If you go back to the chapter reviews when Amato was saying all this, I was sounding the alarm bell saying that Amato was an unreliable narrator and that something wasn't right, and lo and behold, we learned that Amato, while he did tell the truth about a lot of things, he was keeping his true intentions hidden and was in possession of a few unethical double crosses on both sides before he would finally tell us his true reasoning for helping Konoha, in particular for helping Kawaki. The same holds true for Momoshiki. He's an unreliable narrator, and when he said he was going to shove Boruto into a corner of his own mind, I mentioned how it was sounding like something very similar to Orochimaru's living corpse jutsu, where he takes over the body of somebody and a portion of their soul still exists within his consciousness. And I said that that was a form of Kodoku, similar to how Kage and the Ten Tails use Kodoku, albeit in a similar but different manner. And I was saying that Momoshiki was talking about doing something that relied very heavily on destroying Boruto's yin chakra, i.e. the spiritual chakra, which is connected to the emotions of the heart and soul and the mind. Momoshiki in the last chapter was shown visibly frustrated as he was screaming at Boruto that things will never go back to how they used to be, even though he has all these allies around him now, i.e. Sarada, Sasuke, Ada, and Damon. But look at the truth behind what we just got when he had his own private thoughts. He praised Boruto's mental state of mind, saying that it was a lot tougher than he thought it'd be, and he made it clear Boruto's mind breaking was what he was counting on in order to take over his body and not have to rely on Boruto's chakra hitting near zero. So I say all that to say, Momoshiki is a true unreliable narrator in every sense of the definition when it comes to Shinjutsu, because everything that he says should be measured against the scale of he's trying to take a Rasengan to Boruto's yin chakra so that he can take over the body. Whatever he says cannot be taken 100% at face value. Is Ada unable to control her Shinjutsu? Absolutely. We see that that's the case. That is a fact, and that is something that we learned from her when she reveals she can't control her power to control hearts and making love slaves, and it was something that Amato said that she can't really turn off. So there is more evidence and there are statements that back up what Momoshiki told us, and just as Amato hid his deception in some layers of truth, the same thing is going on here with Momoshiki. There's truth to what he's saying, but there's also lies mixed into it. And that goes back to a key concept of the Naruto franchise. A ninja must see through deception, or as Boruto has rephrased it, a ninja must see the hidden meaning behind the hidden meaning. That also applies to us as readers. So in short, my patron's saying that Momoshiki's capping when he says that there is no way to reverse the Shinjutsu, because he has every reason to make Boruto think that it cannot be undone under any circumstances. My patron says not only is this a situation where it's not so much that it can't be undone, but that right now the conditions have not been set yet. And the reasoning is that given how much I've talked about Asian folklore and religion and some of the culture stuff in videos, they think that it will go back to a very basic concept that we've seen before in a ton of anime, including in Naruto, which is the concept of yin and yang. And because we're dealing with chakra, it's important to remember that chakra is made up of yin and yang chakra, physical and mental energy. They think that the Shinjutsu was casted off by the desires of an Otsutsuki like Kawaki, and the Shinjutsu can be reversed by an Otsutsuki like Boruto once very specific conditions are met that are similar to what we saw when Kawaki did it. And honestly, I think they might be onto something here. So it's not as simple as Boruto just walking up to Ada and saying, hey, you cyborg girl, reverse all this stuff right here and turn it back to normal. Hey, we might even find a way to actually remove that ninja tech from your body so you can be 100% human with no artificial enhancements. But at the same time, I think that the reversal is going to be very simple in nature as well. I don't think it's going to be some super complex situation. I think it's very in our face. Just as releasing the Infinite Tsukuyomi back in 2014 when the manga was coming out, fans had these complex ideas on how it would be reversed. Hagoromo said, hey, you just need somebody that has the Rinnegan and you need somebody that has the chakra, the 9 Biju, or the 9 Biju themselves, all weaving the same hand signs, and you can undo the Infinite Tsukuyomi. Very straightforward, not anything super complex like fans were saying back then. So when we look at the circumstances of how the Shinjutsu was casted, it fits into something that I originally suspected when Ada was first introduced to us in the manga. After hearing about her powers of control over people and making them into her love slaves, I originally raised the question of, since she looks like she was either a teenage girl, which we now know to be the truth, or that she looked like a woman who was approaching cake woman status who happened to look very young, I wonder if Amado placed all that ninja tech in her body when he did so, if there was a problem with the chemicals in the brain that released the emotions of love that were already in overdrive prior to her being experimented on by Amado, like he did with Kawaki and all the other Kara cyborgs. We know based off of Kawaki's flashback in the anime that he was awake for the procedure, so I thought that might explain the power in particular, but we learned that it was really Shibai's DNA that was the binding agent for her ninja tech, and unlike the other Kara enters outside of somebody like, say, Damon, outside of somebody like Code, those other Kara enters like Delta, Koji, and etc., they all had Hashirama cells as a binding agent, and that due to being unable to control her power, the Shinjutsu was casted the first time to make everyone except for blood relatives and Otsutsuki her love slaves, and again, it made sense. She has Shibai DNA as a binding agent, so that was how Amado was able to transplant the powers, and it makes sense that she can't control the powers of a literal god. It still, however, goes back to the original premise, which is that emotions were implied to be involved, and they were extremely intense emotions at that. Kawaki was already on emotional level 10. He was desperate and he was angry and he was scared, all while his obsession with Naruto, in particular his strong love for Naruto, was something at the forefront. He was placed in front of Ada, who was in possession of what appeared to be strong feelings for Kawaki, and she was willing to do whatever she could out of those feelings for Kawaki in order to help him. That's when he grabbed her and began rattling off all these various things about how it would be so much easier if Boruto wasn't Naruto's son and if he was an outsider like him, while also showing a glimpse into his heart with the implied dark desire and wishes that he could have been Naruto's son instead of Boruto, which fits into the foreshadowing we got when Sarada and Kawaki were bonding after Naruto got captured, and she told Kawaki, hey, don't look at it like Naruto taking interest in you because you're special. That's just Naruto being 7th Hokage, and honestly, you're not alone. There were times she wished that she had Naruto as her father, and she often wondered what it would be like if he was her father as well, which means Sarada obviously watched my video on what if Naruto married Sakura, because that would have been the case if that would have happened. However, getting back to the video though, cheap plug aside, the strong desire for a wish to be true on Kawaki's end and the strong desire to do anything possible to help a loved one, that led to the Shinjutsu being activated and us getting the situation where the roles of Boruto and Kawaki were reversed. Are we in a situation where a similar set of circumstances can be used to trigger the wish to reverse the Shinjutsu as well? It honestly doesn't sound crazy to me. Now, you might be thinking, why didn't things just go back to normal when Boruto met Ada after everything went down? But it's important to remember a few things at first. First, when you look at Boruto, when you look at everything that happened and the way that he was behaving, he was talking like someone who understood where Kawaki had come from, understood why Kawaki and how he felt like an outsider, and why he used to get so upset at Boruto when Boruto told him that he knew exactly how he felt. Boruto was talking like someone who understood what had happened, and most importantly, he had accepted what had happened, versus someone like Kawaki who refused to accept the reality and was super emotional when he made that wish for things to be reversed. Ada was willing to help Boruto, but the motive was not the same. She went to help Kawaki out of the strong feelings that she has towards Kawaki and the willing desire to do everything within her power that she could in order to help him. In short, the conditions were not met. Boruto wasn't highly emotional and desperate to fix everything because he had already made peace with the circumstances, and Ada was acting more out of guilt than genuinely wanting to help Boruto. It's a similar situation here. Boruto and Ada are not at that common wavelength just yet. They have to get there, which means we do need to see what Momoshiki spoke of, which is that Boruto getting his yin chakra so out of whack that we see everything way down on him. We see him as he's approaching that moment where he's breaking down and falling into despair. However, we also need to see Ada get there with a genuine desire to help Boruto in that exact moment that Boruto's thinking to himself he wishes that everything could go back to how it used to be, maybe even having to verbalize it, and there's gonna need to be physical contact at that exact moment in the time that this is happening as well. Ada in the last chapter, we can take her whole vibe in that conversation as basically being the equivalent of someone saying I'm sorry and offering a card to say that they're sorry, but the heart wasn't all the way in it. The expression actions speak louder than words, that applies here. Anyone can say that they're sorry about something, but actually proving that you're sorry and saying that you're sorry, they're two different things if you want to be honest. A combination of those two things, Boruto being an emotional 10, wanting things to go back to how they used to be after Boruto's been pushed to that moment of despair and hopelessness, and Ada genuinely wanting to help Boruto to make his deep desire come true and making physical contact. When she feels this, that might be the thing that actually works here, which means Boruto is gonna have to suffer way more to get pushed to that breaking point because his mental state of mind is very strong. I think my patron, I think they're onto something here, but I do think there are a few things regarding Ada's powers that we still don't know all the answers to yet, so I'm not 100% sure that this is something we can say with certainty, but I think that this is something we do have to file away in the it's very possible category, and we just need a little bit more understanding on how Shinjutsu works before we can say with absolutely certainty that this is actually the case. That being said, I'm curious to know you guys' thoughts on this. While you think that over, click here to watch my Black Clover chapter 359 review over on Kryptonian Saiyan.